and what led to, I'm sure it's pretty obvious, but what led you to coming back, for this last year?
I just feel like everybody plays their last year. Why shouldn't I play mine? I've had the circumstances that I've had. I'm having injury, and I think it's turned into a blessing. My time, I'm on my time, and I'm on God's time, and so I feel like that's protected. So, I've never really, never rushed it. My dad's always told me when I was little, I was very impatient about everything. No matter what it was, my dad always talked about patience, and it bugged me, and I think it really helped as I got older. Patience. I wanted to rush the recovery. I came back from my Achilles. I felt great. I wanted to rush. I wanted to play all those different things, but I wasn't quite ready. It went back to when I was a kid, just patience. So I think thinking is like, hey man, you have 1 year left. A lot of people regret it. A lot of people feel like they shouldn't have left. A lot of people feel like that they wish they had another year. So I didn't want to be that guy. I want to be able to say that I finished. I did all I could in my time here, and I think there's a lot of meat on the bone for myself and for my teammates.
What's your dad's name?
Ben Coleman, same as mine.
Awesome. Thank you.
Ben Coleman.
All right, so what are the biggest challenges from switching from guard to center, would you say?
I'm gonna think from a physical standpoint, also football is the same. But I think from a technique standpoint, it's really more about obviously one, snapping the ball, right? But I think two, it's about footwork. A lot of times we're even out at center versus at guard, having to stack all the time. So I think that's big. I think staying square in the pass protection is even more important at center than at guard. So I think working those small habits, and that'll come through repetition. So I've been excited this spring to make new mistakes because if I was playing guard again, I think it would be a lot of the same things, which is not a bad thing. You go to the next level, you play the position for years. So. But I think it's been pretty cool. I'm excited to make some new mistakes.
And how's the change gone? How do you think you're dealing with the transition from snapping the ball every play?
I think it's good. I think the biggest thing is, as you get tired and as you get fatigued, the biggest thing for me is to understand is just, go back to your technique, right? Go back to your foundation, because once again, you play a position for so long, it becomes easy even when you're tired, right? But I think that's the reality for everybody, right? You try to stay on your technique when you're tired. So ultimately, every rep can look the same.
And have you talked to Leaf at all? Has he reached out to you about kind of, what it takes to be a center and all those things and whatnot?
Well, we talked a lot at the end of last year. Yeah. After I talked to Dilly and told him I was coming back, it was kind of easy because, I was working some center. So I was working next to him at the end of last season, a little bit for the bowl prep, a little bit before that U of A week, especially, one of the weeks Leaf wasn't feeling so well. So I think just, preparing to be that backup, as the season goes, we got banged up. Then, I kind of, stopped with the center work after, already determined I was coming back. And that was kind of the plan going forward. But it was really good talking with Leaf. I just think small details. I say it all the time in interviews. I think the biggest thing is that, you never take the ball in a game and just put it down yourself and then snap it. So I think the biggest thing I've learned first is that every time you grab the ball, you got to put it down, put it where you want it. And he always says, don't put it on the line. So I think it's something I learned too.
And have you ever played center before, or is this your first time making the transition to that?
Yeah, when I was at Cal, I had a spring where I played center.
Okay.
My coach thought it'd be a good adjustment. And I think it's a good fit. I think it's a good fit for body type, being vocal, loud. So I think that's something, but it's really more about more tools in the toolbox. So we have great coaches. I'm glad they put me in a position to win. And as you see, you have people out here, long snapping, doing all type of stuff because we want to let everybody know that at the next level, right, the more you can do, right, that can only help your draft stock. So.
And what was the injury that you first dealt with when you first got here at ASU a couple years ago?
I tore my Achilles.
Okay.
Yeah, that first February I was here.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so kind of off that, again, you mentioned being able to kind of transition to center and you being a leader in that aspect. How is it going to be easier for you to be a leader of the offensive line in that way, playing as a center versus being a guard?
Well, I think the biggest thing I want them to know is that, hey, a lot of the freshmen, hey, I'm going to make mistakes too. I'm new too. I may point the wrong guy, right? I may forget the motion, just small things like that. So I think it's been even easier because they understand, hey, that's an older guy, but he's making mistakes too. I'm not the only one. I'm not, early enrollee or switching positions or transferring schools, like, Meadow and X. And so I think it's important for those guys to understand, like, hey, I'm with you as well, right? Obviously, I played a lot more football, so the experience helps me as far as just understanding mentally, being able to go when you're tired. But I think the reality is when you understand, hey, I'm making mistakes too, I think those guys feel a little bit better about their performance.
So how do you think that first day has been now, kind of getting back in the action, getting a lot of new guys in the fold, and obviously keeping a lot of the same group, but, getting guys acclimated? What's that been like over the first day?
I think it felt like day one. I think guys were excited, but naturally you're rusty, right? Naturally your technique, naturally your footwork. Those are things that you have to build up. So I think I'm excited for those guys, myself including all the young guys, to make that transition as the 15 practices go on.
With Leaf gone, you've already always been a vocal leader, but what's been like the biggest adjustment, or what's going to be the biggest adjustment as a leader in the room being like the obvious like number one guy in the O-line room?
I think understanding everybody from a one-on-one perspective, right? Spending time with guys one-on-one, understanding where they're from, understanding their background, right? I think that's most important because a lot of guys, when it comes to leadership, they feel like you just have to talk. No, I think it's being able to understand. So that way, when you do something wrong on the field, you can relate. When I'm talking to you, I'm coming to you from love, right? Whether that's I'm getting on you for not finishing or if I'm getting on you for a block. So I think it's been a lot easier because as we go into individual drills, drills, whether it be Makai, whether it be, Deshaun Bryant, whoever it might be. I think it's been really important to understand is that through the offseason, I've been able to relate to those guys one-on-one. When we go eat, when we go train, paying for guys' food, just small little details that you can relate to them and say, hey, I know you look at me as a big bro, but I think it's not just a title. I feel like you should actually feel like that.
What do you think is the biggest goal you have for yourself and then for the position group over the course of spring football this season?
I just think we want to improve. I think obviously last year we wanted to be in the running for the Joe Moore Awards. That's something that'll be long distance. I think for spring ball, we're not worried about the fall. I think right now it's just, hey man, how much better can you get each and every day? Can you make a new mistake, or are you going to make the same mistake? I think it's important. Guys got to make new mistakes. We're out here to make mistakes, to correct them, but they got to be a new mistake. We can't go through multiple practices. We're making the same mistake. So I encourage those guys. I like asking guys, man, like, what did you mess up? What'd you mess up on today? Did you get beat on a one-on-one? Whether it be a wide receiver, whether it be a DB, whether it be a linebacker, like, what did you do wrong? I could care less what you did good. What did you do wrong? And then what are you going to do about it to get better?
And then last funny question for you. How fun was it to get back into the team comps, being able to go get the D-line guys, getting new guys in the fold and trying that out and seeing how guys are going at each other one-on-one?
Well, I think people can understand it's really a tone setter, right? I think, Rodney made a great play, but I remember last year I was one of the first guys, the reality of the coaches, they wanted to see, right? So they thought they had a good pass rusher, Jet, that came over. So being able to make a play, and I think it brings a lot of energy to your side, right? Whether that's offense or defense. And like I said, first impressions are everything, right? It means something. You have to be consistent, no doubt. I think first impression, we make a big splash. So I remember last year I made a big splash, and it kind of let guys know and kind of understood, like, hey man, this guy can play.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, Ben.